Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this actually little guy right here. This is the SharpByDesign Nadeau Micro Evo Typhoon, or Micro Typhoon Evo. I forget exactly what order the words go in, but either way, it's Micro, it's Evo, and it is sure as heck typhoony. But first off, actually, I want to thank very much my Patreon patrons who make it possible for me to see a knife like this and go, yeah, I better pre-order that. It's probably going to be good. Spoiler alert, it's good. Next thing, let's do a little bit of size comparison real quick here. First off, against our sort of normal comparison pieces, here is the Spyderco Delica. And so what we see here is this is actually a very small knife. It is much smaller, although it has a little bit more sharpened blade length than the Delica. It is a smaller piece overall, handle and whatnot. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2 right there. And so again, relatively small piece. Here it is next to the Spyderco PM2, which absolutely dwarfs this guy. Then here it is against my other Nadeau knife at the moment. This is the SharpByDesign Typhoon, or Void. That is, and this is the Knife Nuts Podcast edition with the fancy inlay, but still, yeah. So we can see here that this is a relatively small little piece right here. Then next thing to note, there is a little bit of confusion in that a bunch of people have said, well, Nick, didn't you do this review already? Well, no, not really, because I've done the Typhoon Evo. I've done the Micro Typhoon, but I've never done the Micro Typhoon Evo. This is the evolved version. This is basically a step forward from the previous Micro, and it is absolutely not the same thing as the Typhoon Evo, which he actually just re-released through his website. So that's a beautiful thing. But that's what's going on here, and then there we go. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little knife right here. Start with on the good side. You know, the price on this actually feels pretty good. The reason I say that, it's $300. That's a lot of money. I mean, there are going to be a bunch of people who are, you know, oh my God, that's too much. But thing is, for what you're getting here, you're getting top-of-the-line steel, you're getting a very nice grind, you're getting an amazing action and whatnot, as well as great fit and finish. I'm not super bent out of shape about this. You know, sure, would I love to see it cheaper? Absolutely, but I'd love to see every damn thing cheaper. So, you know, I feel like this is actually a pretty good price for this. These represent quite good value if you can get them. Next thing, I like the approach very much that Brian has been taking with these of pre-ordering. I very much want to see more of this, where basically pre-orders are open, and then it may, you know, takes either a small ahead-of-time payment, a payment in full, and then down the road you get your knife. And the nice thing about this is that it avoids the drop sort of mechanics that happen regularly, where people, you know, oh my God, I'm going to post 50 of these, and then their website crashes, and oh, wow, I couldn't have anticipated that. Like, no, that's dumb. Don't do that. Just have drops open, have pre-orders open, take as many pre-orders as you can, and then, you know, sell them, right? That strikes me as a really good approach. I wish he would accept more. I wish the quantity of pre-orders was much higher, and I wish he'd reopen them a little bit more often, but it's a beautiful thing to see it done that way. So I very much appreciate that he's going that route rather than ordering 10 of them and then acting surprised when his website crashes or something like that, which is the normal EDC approach these days. Next thing, size-wise, this is actually a very nice size for your kind of office everyday carry. We're coming in here with a blade that is under 3 inches, pretty uncontroversially, which is good, and the size of the knife itself is actually quite small. I mean, we can see here that this fits very nicely within the outline of the Delica, modulo the pocket pecker on the back there, but still, it is a very nice little size, and it's going to be unintimidating to a lot of people, which is good. Next thing, there were some options here. You get different kind of inlay colors. You can get a fake inlay, where it's just like titanium milled out of there. There wasn't anything super high-end fancy on it, but then nonetheless, they had a nice selection there, and I appreciate that, and that's yet another joy of the pre-orders, right? Is you get a couple of different SKUs to choose from, so you get something that's a little bit more personalized. So that's a beautiful thing. Next thing, ergonomically speaking, it's good to go. The clip on this guy is actually quite well done. It's reasonably wide. It works well in the pocket. There's no real complaints with it there, but it also just fits well in the hand, right? I mean, generally speaking, this works pretty well, and given I have smaller hands than most, and I'm only getting maybe a 3.5 finger grip on this guy, the pinky's got a little something to grab onto, but still, ergonomically, to me, it's good to go. Next thing, it's got some nice details to it. I mean, at this point in time, in 2020, a lock bar insert with over-travel stop are pretty much de rigueur. It's almost weird to still mention them, but that's definitely in there. You've got the hidden lanyard hole construction with the lanyard hole in the back there that you didn't notice unless you were looking for it. It's got the fuller in the blade, which, you know, okay, whatever. It's definitely a thing. It is constructed without standoffs, by the way. It is just 2 chunks of titanium here that are screwed together using the clip screw in there. So they're just 2 screws here. And then the inlay work on this is quite good. Rayot does nice inlay work, and this is flush fit. This is everything I want out of inlay work, and so that's very nice. I already mentioned the clip here, but it's good. It is a sculpted clip, but in many ways it feels like what's kind of weird about this clip, honestly, is that, and by the way, notice that the hole here for the clip doesn't go all the way through. That means it's screwed into the titanium on the other side, but aesthetically speaking, the effect is quite nice. But you've got kind of a nice, it's almost like one of those sculptures of fabric or something like that, where you just see the curvature on this is very nice. It feels very effortless, even though it is a milled clip. That's a weird thing to say, but hey, here we go. Next thing, blade on this guy, M390. That's great. Very thin edge, which is great. Relatively thin stock, which is great. And I appreciate that, because historically, Brian has tended towards thicker blade stock, and the fact that he dialed it down here is part of the reason this knife is compelling. And then there are actually two different finishes on here. You've got sort of a belt finish on here, as well as a what looks to be sort of a stonewashy thing going on the other parts of it. And, so I appreciate that very much. There you go. You can see that a little bit better now. So I appreciate the two-tone it to do it a little bit. And just overall, it's a very nice little blade for cutting. It comes to a nice thin edge. One can't really argue with that very much. This is probably my very favorite blade that I've seen on a Nadeau. And then finally, on the good side, this is really well made. This is made, so this is, Brian Nadeau is a guy based out of Jersey, and he does a whole line of custom knives, but he also does these, which are a collaboration with Rayot Knives, which is one of the very best knife-making companies in the world. And especially if they got their grinds down and things like that, they're damn near one of the best, certainly in China. And they are, they do amazing work. This is magnificently made. There's nothing I can really look at and point to this on this guy, which is like, nope, you did that wrong. No, it's beautifully done. So I appreciate that very, very much. And by the way, this looks proprietary. This is Torx. Nice. So it's just a beautifully made knife, and I appreciate that very much. So to me, all that's the good, is that it's beautifully made, nice blade, great clip, good details, good ergonomics, a nice size for an office-focused EDC. The pre-order approach is very welcome and way better than what a lot of folks are doing, and it's $300, but honestly, that ends up feeling like a value given everything I've talked about here. Thing is, though, on the great side, the action on this knife is spectacular. Brian has a very unusual detent system, and if you watch my disassembly, you'll get a closer look of it, but you'll see that there, on most knives, come here, most knives, what's a good knife with that is most, here we go. On this is the Spyderco swayback here. And we'll go ahead and look at the inside of this, and what we see is on the inside of the handle there is a little tiny ball sticking up out of there. Right there, a little nub in there, and that little ball is what goes into a hole on the blade and makes everything, well, stop. It's the detent, what keeps the blade from closing. On this guy, on the other hand, we have an entirely different system. If we look inside of there, what we see is that there is no ball. Instead, there is a little machined piece there. A little ramp, basically. And this is something that is pretty unique to Brian Nadeau, and it is absolutely a great thing, because what it means is that you get a very nice, strong, clicky detent. I mean, oh yeah, that's great. But on the close, it's very, very easy, because it is a very sharp angle on one side, but it's a ramp on the other. So when you bring it back up to the blade just glides along this ramp, as opposed to when you're trying to disengage it, where it's up against this, so it has to kind of pop up. And so this is just, it's great. It even sounds great. And so this has a wonderful clicky Brian Nadeau action with very smooth travel. This is just an amazing action. I'm a big, big fan of it. Although the blade is very light, which makes it not the most drop-shotty thing ever, it's absolutely good to go. This is a great action, and that is 100% the very best part of this, is just that clickitude. Yes. So to me, that's what's great here, the action. Okay, on the bad side, a couple of things. I mean, to start with, one thing that you should keep in mind is this is a small knife. 100%. Even by my standards, this is a relatively small knife, and I appreciate that. At some level, it's going to be a choice, because Brian Nadeau tends to make knives that are freaking gigantic. Unfortunately, the only reason I don't own any of his customs is all of his customs are like freaking gigantic, at least by my standards. So I very much appreciate the fact that he's done something that's a little bit better suited for the office, but for for a lot of folks, this might be a little on the small side because, like I said, I have relatively small hands, and even I'm getting, 3.5 fingers worth of grip here. And the blade length is definitely relatively small, so you need to make sure that you want a small knife. Otherwise, go with the Typhoon Evo, which is much closer to normal Brian size. Next thing, the availability of these guys is a little bit poor. What happens here is that he does these runs, and the problem is, well, at least my problem, and I don't know whether it's the problem, but it is a problem, is that once he gets the drop of them, so to speak, and they get distributed to people, there's not another way to get more. I kind of wish that he would do a second drop shortly after. That way people who missed out can pick up more of them. There is definitely hope for more of these in the future, and in fact, Brian has just done a second run of the Typhoon Evo. And so I'm very much hoping that that continues to be a thing here, but I'd love to see those second restocks come quicker, or just have kind of better availability, because unfortunately, just as a reviewer, it's frustrating to say, this is awesome. Maybe there will be more in a year. Like, not a huge fan of that. And then finally, on the bad side, I am not a big fan of the flipper tab here. Now, of course, Brian's blood pressure is just spiking right now because I'm about to say the word pocket pecker. That's right, this guy is just going to be pecking on whatever's in your pocket all day long with this little sharp corner. And the given, that's one thing. And with a knife this small, it's not a major detail, not a major thing. And also the way that it hangs in the pocket is designed to sort of minimize that. Actually, my bigger beef with this is, part of it is I'm just spoiled, right? Because on the Void here, Brian did a very different flipper tab with an angle that makes a lot more sense. Here, you just pull right back from the start, and it works. It's this nice. Whereas on this guy, the flipper tab feels like it's about a 1/4 inch back from where it should be. Like I keep reaching up here, and it's like, nope, you have to slide further back, and then you're pressing down in a weird angle. Like honestly, this knife with the Void flipper tab would be absolutely ideal. And I know that this flipper tab is kind of a trademark for Brian, but I kind of wish it wasn't, because I think just the way they did it on the Void was just a little bit better, and as a result, it just has a nicer feel to it. So, that's definitely a sacrifice for the art, so to speak, and I'm not a big fan of that, and that's the thing that I like least about this knife, is just the fact that the flipper tab doesn't feel like it is where it should be, and then the angle of it, combined with this part pressing into your finger, just not a big fan. But again, that's kind of Brian's thing, so take that for what it's worth. So, to me, those are the bad things here, is that the flipper tab just doesn't do it for me. Unfortunately, the poor availability, I really wish there were just more runs of these more regularly. And this is a very small knife, which is something that, you're going to have to keep in mind as you're carrying this guy and choosing it out. Ugly-wise, absolutely nothing ugly here. And so let's go final conclusion. And my final conclusion is, predictably, this is a great little knife, right? It's small. They're doing the pre-order route. Hopefully, they'll be doing it more. It's got solid ergos, good details, a great clip, a nice blade, excellent construction, and the kind of action that, is why people go to Brian, right? This action is just uniquely excellent, and it's one of the reasons that anytime I see he's at a show or something, like one of these days I will own one of his customs. It's just as soon as he makes one that's Nick Shabazz sized, I'm totally in. But anyways, I've only got really two main complaints here. I mean, and that's the easy availability and the flipper tab being a little bit strange, but honestly, those things are very, very easily forgivable. And so it should be no surprise to anybody that I'm a big fan of this guy. With Brian's design work, Rayot's execution, and a size that's going to be perfect for a bunch of folks, this is absolutely great. This is a gem. This is a really wonderful knife. And the only real question, I think, for most people is going to end up being that size. If you wanted something full size, well, that ain't this. Go for the regular Evo. Well, the Typhoon Evo regular, I guess. But if you want something that is very small, very cute, and a very nice little choice for EDC that disappears, this is a really great piece. And honestly, if the availability were a little bit better, I'd be recommending this all the damn time. For me, actually, oddly enough, in the name of full disclosure, I don't think this one's sticking around because of the Void. I like the Void flipper tab a little bit better, and I will freely admit, I like the fanciness of the Knife Nuts podcast edition here. That just, that tickles me in a very real way. But I think I like the Void just a little bit more, and I like the fanciness, but that's because I'm a little bougie and a little bit weird. But I think for many people, this will be an absolutely amazing choice, and the Micro Evo here could evolve into being a real fixture of your collection. So anyways, well done, Brian. Well done, Rayot. Well done, Brian, supervising Rayot. His Rayots tend to come out better than... They do a lot of OEM work, and he's really, really good at working with them. The results are excellent. So, as always, keep an eye out for him. And frankly, next thing you see that he does with them, I would go ahead and pre-order it. it's just, he's at the stage you're just like, okay, take my money. So, yeah, anyways, there you go. I hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.